A single 30-second traffic stop on Mumbai roads generates over 1 crore rupees for beggars. That's the size of the unseen economy of the begging industry in India.
The World Bank paper says extreme poverty in India dropped sharply by 12.3 percentage points.
At the same time, the divide between the country's richest and poorest appears to be deepening.
Beggars have existed in the society since the start of our recorded history. In the ancient times, this was an acceptable occupation, but today it is a huge problem, especially in the context of India, where 81 out of the 130 crore Indians rely on subsidized food grains from the government. Behind the simple face value of begging, there is also a massive cartel that runs the show and a $1.5 billion economy that we don't know about. But before we get into the cartel and the mafia side of it, I want you to know a little about its history. The Indus Valley civilization had provided for everyone to make a decent living. But around 1500 BC, the Aryan Civilization took over and established the caste system. They were also unable to deal with the constant migration of people into India and couldn't help them make a living. The social climate in India was such that the Hindus, Christians, and the Buddhist values kept meeting at a very common point. All these religions, in their own way and shape, encouraged the helpless to lead a homeless life in service of God, which freed them from materialistic needs, and hence India became a place for religious begging. This practice went on for centuries until the government restricted begging at various times and for various reasons, typically revolving around the desire to maintain public order or to push people to work instead of beg. Article 46 of the Constitution mandates the state to promote the economic interest of the weaker sections of the society and protect them from social injustice. This, coupled with the right of every individual to a dignified life under Article 21, has put an obligation on the government and its public institutions to work towards an equal life to all.
Seeing these kids on the streets, it's devastating. They accepted that living on the streets is the way it's going to be, and they're okay with that.
Aid agencies estimate that 3 million people are living on the streets throughout the country, 200,000 of them in the capital, Delhi.
Now let's look at how the Indian economy contributes to begging. Poverty, landlessness, unemployment, and other such conditions are all reasons for beggary in the first place. You see, poverty alone is not a problem because not everyone below the poverty line is begging. Otherwise, we would have 15% of India's population begging. Unemployment can become a secondary economic cause in this case. A person not only begs when they are poor, but also when they are unemployed. Many people make it a profession instead of doing hard labor because it is considerably easier to make enough money. It was also seen that many laborers beg to increase their income. But in the recent history, begging has been deeply linked with organized crime. Time and again, begging has been combined with crimes such as human trafficking and drug peddling. In fact, there are begging cartels in major cities like Delhi, Gurgaon, Kolkata, Mumbai, etc. Slumdog Crorepati gives a really great look into it. These gangs have their own gang leaders, and these leaders allot particular territories to a group of beggars, and the day's earnings are shared by all of them. Dharavi in Mumbai is one of the biggest slums in Asia, which accounts for a major population almost equal to a major city in Japan. And according to sociological surveys, these slums produce the largest number of beggars. The fact that a 30-second stop on Mumbai road can generate 1 crore rupees for beggars proves that this is a well-organized and an unlawful economy in major cities of India. According to some conservative estimates, over 3 lakh children in India are forced to beg, using everything from addiction to drugs to threat of violence to actual beatings. They become the foot soldiers of what is now a $1 billion industry led by the human trafficking cartels. The Indian National Human Rights Commission reports that 40,000 children in India are abducted every year, out of which 25% remain untraced. It's usually assumed that these children belong to families that push them into begging. These children in most cases are abducted by, or in some cases sold to begging mafias in India. These kids are then taught, tortured, drugged, and made to beg in front of traffic signals, temples, hospitals, restaurants, etc. To get more money, sometimes these children are purposely disabled as well. Some doctors in India have even been caught red-handed while getting money to maim children for these drug mafia lords. Child trafficking is a huge problem in India, with some girls being sold in the international market for prostitution. But the billion-dollar question that really needs to be looked into is who's really managing all of this? Who's taking care of their accommodation, their travel, making all of these arrangements? The very fact that we do not have answers to this means that there is a very well-organized hand above it all. Now the question is, what is the government doing about it? In India, there is no central law that penalizes begging. The Supreme Court has been quite categorical on this subject. It recently refused to ban begging and observed that it is a socio-economic problem and people are forced to beg to make out their livelihood due to the absence of education and employment. However, some considerable efforts are being made to reduce begging. For example, in 2018, the Delhi High Court struck down a law that made begging a crime in the capital, saying that criminalizing begging violates the fundamental right of the most vulnerable people. With an eye on the foreign tourists who visit the city and the diplomats who live there, the Delhi government made a move to make the national capital region beggar-free. It has embarked on a 3-month rehab program. Batches of beggars are going to be trained in skills that can provide them a livelihood, like painting walls. And during the training, they'll get a daily stipend of 100 rupees. This is a laudable idea, but at best, it will make marginal difference. You see, begging is deep-rooted in our society, and the main cause of it needs to be addressed. About 20 states in India have adopted the Bombay Prevention of Begging Act 1959, which basically puts a penalty or detention of 3 to 10 years at beggar homes. However, activists argue that this is an oppressive law and give the power to the police to detain anyone on the streets. Ultimately, the answer lies in removing poverty, as China has done in a very dramatic sense. Education and the job it brings has empowered the Chinese people. There is another equally important factor: healthcare and sanitation. In the US or Europe, you still see beggars, but most of them are homeless, usually illiterate migrants that can't find a job. The Supreme Court is right in saying that begging cannot be banned, but poverty, which is the main cause of this issue, can be lessened through education and healthcare. So if you found this video interesting, make sure to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so that you can stay updated on our later videos. You can check out other videos from us over here.